over the years of experience as a leader in marketing, just leaning on data. But when you have a gut feeling about something and you just feel really strongly, not being afraid to make that choice and a decision that maybe you don't know exactly and you can't predict exactly how it's going to net out, but you feel strongly about it, not being afraid to make that possible mistake. And the way I like to think about it, or I try to, I'm not always good at this, but I try to think of decisions in a way of I will either be right or more wise at the end of this. And it's hard to remember that in the moment, but I try really hard to think of it that way.
Welcome to the Growth League podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Clark, and today I am with my guest, Brittany Tomkiewicz. She's the marketing director at Lowe & Sons. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Brittany, along your journey as a marketer and now a marketing leader, you've touched almost every role there is in the world of marketing, from and across different industries. A lot of go-to-market strategies, brand performance, retail marketing. I'm not going to go into everything because I saw a long list, but can you give us a bit of an overview summary of your journey as a marketer and what brought you to today?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career out I was really lucky to have landed at where I did at Birchbox, which is a beauty subscription and retailer. At the time, it was very small and I was just starting out in my career, had no idea what I wanted to do, but in a turn of events, my dad, who is in IT banking, I did not think he'd be the person to connect me to a future job, but lo and behold, his colleagues colleagues, sister-in-law worked at Birchbox, passed my resume along, and was able to join the team pretty much on the ground floor right before everything started blowing up for them. And so part of my trajectory was really in part because of where I found myself at that time at the company. I just got really lucky to have joined them when I did, because as the company grew and I was someone who was a go-getter, really hungry to just do anything and try anything once, in terms of, my career and marketing. I naturally got a lot of different opportunities because I was both hungry for them and raising my hand for everything. And the company was growing at a very rapid pace. So there was a ton to do. And so I got really lucky in that regard. And as the company grew, I was also just very lucky to be working somewhere where it attracted a lot of really awesome people that were incredible and very smart. And I was lucky to have been mentored by a lot of them. So as I was getting my footing first 5 years at Birchbox, and more so was focused on the brand PR, partnerships, events side of things, had been talking with various people at the company, leaders at the company, who encouraged me to seek out sort of the other end of the marketing spectrum, which is acquisition/growth marketing. And so, again, just was lucky to be at the company at a time where it was still growing really rapidly and there was an opportunity on the growth marketing side. So made the jump over there. And then from there was able to level that up into a director position on the brand marketing side. After a couple of years doing growth marketing, as much as I enjoyed that, I missed the more fun, creative sides of what I was doing before that, and was able to marry the analytical with the creative side in this new sort of brand marketing director role that I was able to level my experience up into. And that sort of brought me kind of to today. From there, after Birchbox, I knew I wanted to continue on that journey of marrying together both ends of what I find interesting. So a little bit of the analytical and a little bit of the creative. So went after positions that were more of a director of marketing, where I could have my hands in both of those sides. And because of all the experiences that I had had between growth marketing and PR, partnerships, events, brand marketing, and campaigns, I thought that I'd be good at being a manager of multiple areas and functions within marketing because I had lived in each of those roles and could have a unique perspective on both what that person was going through and how to sort of marry all those things together. So from Birchbox onward, I've sort of had my eye on roles where I could do that, which has brought me here to Lone Sons as the head of marketing. A
That's
little bit of a
awesome.
long-winded explanation,
No,
but
I mean, what a wild ride. And I think that the takeaway for me there is that, I mean, first of all, you had an awesome opportunity at a critical time right before the jump. And I
yeah,
think the takeaway here is that all of these stops that we make as marketers and marketing leaders just become a part of the equation of who we show up as a marketing leader in our current opportunity. And I think that's awesome.
yeah.
I'm curious about now today, how would you best describe your mandate? Like at the end of the day, what stops with you? What's your accountability, and what does that world look like?
Yeah. So at Low and Sons, it's definitely different for everyone. Yeah, as a marketing leader, there's a lot of different types of companies and ways that they think about success. In the case of Low and Sons, my mandate is driving top line revenue growth and profit. Really simple. And
Yeah.
those are the two things that I wake up thinking about and go to sleep thinking about, and everything in between is how we get there and best motivating the people on my team and across the company to work together
Yeah.
to do it.
You said that part of what became your journey since Birchbox is this uh, enthusiasm you had about supporting and growing and managing and empowering teams as a critical function of achieving the business case. So tell me a little bit about the team dynamics there today at Low and Sons. Who's on your team? What kind of roles they play, and what does the team dynamic look like?
Yeah, so at the moment, we have a lot of part-time experts that report into me that have more functional area expertise.
Yep.
And the reason that we've sort of landed there, at least for now, the hope and the goal is to grow our revenue and profit in a way where we can turn those roles into full-time roles and continue growing the team and the company. But what works about that for us for now is that it gives us an ability to hire really smart functional expertise that I can delegate things to that know their area incredibly well, and in a way that is profitable and cost effective for the company. Like I said, there's the profit side of the equation for Low and Sons is incredibly important, and if not more important than the top line growth that we see. So
Yeah.
we're constantly balancing those things out.
Um, you said you go to sleep, wake up thinking about top and bottom line. Are there any things that have been consistent voices or consistent things that show up in these daydreams and night dreams? Like what's the biggest thing that keeps you up at night?
Well, I try to not let it keep me up at night for too long because it's I've been in a mindset before where I allowed things to really stress me out, and that does not lead to good ideas and fresh thinking. So I try really hard to balance that. It definitely gets tricky because this type of job is stressful. Driving top line growth and profit is definitely stressful. It's not for the faint of heart. But I guess the thing that maybe plagues me the most is probably just questioning if the decisions I'm making day to day are the right ones,
Hmm.
and are going to get me closer to the intended revenue target and goal, um, which is tough because there's so many different decisions that I'm making every single day across multiple types of marketing functions, and it's tough to know in the moment whether something you're spending your time on or a decision you make is going to net out well or not. And so I imagine myself and like a lot of other marketing leaders probably share that, where you're just like, I don't know if that raising the budget in that campaign is going to result in more growth or not. It could have the opposite effect sometimes. So I feel like that is probably what, plagues me and that I think about a lot.
Well, like
More
you
than
said,
most.
I think that everyone listening to this and every previous guest has had different versions of that same feeling.
Yeah,
I
totally.
like to ask, is there any data set, process, or key people that you introduce in those moments to help you decide or to quiet the voices, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. I work really, really closely with the president of Low and Sons, who's one of the founders, my boss, Derek. We talk all the time and are constantly going back and forth with each other, challenging each other, throwing things out there and picking them apart. And definitely, lean on each other quite a lot to make day-to-day decisions. Um, I try to limit the amount of times I'm badgering him in Slack because there's a lot on his plate beyond marketing. But he's definitely the go-to. We powwow all the time about what's going on with the business and go back and forth on stuff all the time. I also use Triple Whale, which is a tool you may or not have heard of, but we just started using it this year, and it's been really helpful in giving me a place to assess top line growth and profit at the same time. And they track, there's multiple different attribution models in there that you can flip between quite easily. So I also lean on that to help me understand what's going on within our media mix. And then a little bit of it is also just like gut instinct of just like what you feel in the moment and what you're seeing in the moment. I spend a lot of time looking at every single ad, reading the comments and, competitive analysis, looking across, what others are doing and how they're spending their dollars, how they're spending their time. And, sometimes it's just like a gut instinct on, what you're going to spend your money on that day, or a test that you're going to go ahead with. It's just sometimes like a feeling that you have that you just believe that's going to be the right thing for the customer you're going after.
Yeah, I know it's cliche, right? Trust your gut.
Yeah, it's true.
That,
Yeah.
that's critical. As it relates to the things you feel strongest are representative of superpowers for you. And I want to break it down by what would you say if you had to, which I'm asking you, so you have to. What would you say is your superpower on from a leadership standpoint, a team leader, a function leader standpoint? And then what would you say your strongest superpower is from a technical or marketing execution side of things? Probably referring back to some of your experiences in the past, if you'd like.
I think it's actually both the technical and the other thing you
Leadership,
said. I
yeah,
can't
team
remember
leader.
the other side of it. The leadership side. I think it's the same answer. I've had so many experiences in my marketing career alone, not only considering the fact that the company I spent the bulk of my time at, Birchbox, was going through a lot of growth and a lot of change at that time too. We raised money, we opened stores, launched internationally. There were so many things that I was a witness to and part of that, even if I wasn't working directly on the deal or directly on the project, I was still observing, learning, and just amassed such a wealth of knowledge about different ways that a brand could show up in the world. And so I think for me, as an individual and as a marketer, I feel like that's probably what I would say is my secret sauce, is really being able to know across all different types of marketing, what to do and how to do it if need be. And then as a manager, as a leader, for people that I manage or that I'm working with, I find that I have an easy time understanding what their day to day might look like and
Right.
can help them, I think, a little bit more quickly than perhaps a manager who's overseeing people that maybe they don't have that direct experience in the role and they're just, you know, sort
Right.
of guiding them as best they can, but ultimately don't know the ins and outs of what might be plaguing that person. It's really nice. And I had this actually with my boss, Derek, where he's experienced quite a lot in the world of advertising and marketing too. So when I throw things out there, he has a ton of different experiences to refer back to to say, hey, I'm not saying don't do this. Here's what happened when I did it, just so you have the knowledge and the understanding of that. And it's helpful when a person that is managing others can refer back to countless examples of, oh yeah, I saw that and witnessed that, or I worked on that and here's what happened. Because it just makes you feel at least like a little bit more confident in your decision making as someone, and then also just it's nice to know that the person you're being managed by has gone through it too and has experienced the same thing as you too, and you feel a little bit less like you're sort of siloed and alone. So I feel like that's, one of my just probably strong suits, in addition to, like I said, I feel like I've experienced enough that I am pretty confident if somebody gave me a mandate that is at all relative to marketing or building a brand, I could figure out how to go and do it. That's partially just my attitude towards things, but also, like I said, I just have seen and witnessed and experienced so much. And I feel like, I just at least have like a baseline knowledge of a lot as it relates to marketing and business.
Yeah. And that's huge in your situation where you're dealing with a certain number of subject matter experts as compared to a team of generalists where you need to set that direction. It's I think the person on your team understanding that they can speak their language and not I think that gives a place of confidence. So that's awesome. How I was going to ask you, like, there's kind of three different ways to resource a team, right? An external party, a bunch of very disciplined experts in different areas, or kind of a team of generalists. Have you experienced all three, and what do you love about your current setup?
Yeah, I would say, all of that depends on the type of company and the size of the company. When I was at Birchbox, there were countless times where, I had a lot of experiences where there were a lot of times where I was on teams where there were a bunch of generalists who were really good at one particular sort of general area of marketing. And then I've also worked quite a lot with agencies and outsourced certain functions and executional work to agencies. And then at Low and Sons, like I was saying earlier, the current setup we have is that we have a lot of part-time functional experts that are reporting into me that have sort of specific expertise in an area. And I think there's validity and great aspects and negative aspects to all those different setups. I don't think there's one necessarily right way. It's really just based on company size, what the team is focused on. In the case of Low and Sons right now, our main focus is balancing top line and profit. And because profit's so important at the moment, we're happy with the setup of having multiple part-time people because it allows us to be a little bit more nimble. Now, eventually, as the company continues to scale and grow, we have to reconsider that and possibly bring on full-timers or agencies and generalists. I think, once a company starts to scale and the channels that the part-time people are managing become unmanageable for them because it's too big for them to do in a shorter time period, then you have to start scaling, and in which case that's when I start to think about, I feel like specifically for Low and Sons, I feel like people that are maybe more generalists and are hungry to learn and become experts in multiple different areas is probably the route that I would go for now, because inevitably a company of this size, if you're a smaller D2C brand, you need people who are willing to sort of be in a lot of areas and think about a lot of different areas at once, even if your main focus is on one specific thing, because so much of what is executed across marketing in the company is very interconnected. And so if you have somebody that is way, way too deep into one area and they don't lift or have the ability or desire to lift their head up out of that and understand how to connect the dots into other areas and how it affects other areas of marketing or the team or the company, it becomes quite challenging, for a company of like Low and Sons size.
Yeah. So I guess part of your mandate is to understand the season that you're in from a scale standpoint, and then being aware of the pros and cons of the different totally legitimate setup options. How do you steer through?
Yeah.
I think you use the word of balance between the top and bottom line and the season that you're in from a scale standpoint. I think you're
Mhm.
having fun doing that though, right? Like this is what you love to do.
Of course, of course. I mean, I have days where I'm definitely, sometimes I joke, I'm like, I would just love to, I don't know, go work on a farm, have a bunch of puppies that I can adopt and take care of, and just sort of like live an opposite life. But I feel like all of us, think like
I'll think
that at times, right? It's like, you're just in the thick of something and in the thick of your work, and you're just like, oh, it'd be great if the opposite of this was the case right now. I have those moments in those days for sure, but overall, especially given the people at Low and Sons that I work alongside are just so incredible and smart and wonderful to work with. It makes it so much fun to show up to work every day, especially considering, that and just the mission behind what the
right.
brand is doing. So I think if you have a team and people that you're working alongside that you are really connected to and have a lot of respect for and vice versa, it makes it fun and worth it.
Totally. Doing it together. I wanna ask you an interesting question about optimization. So not getting into the weeds about, how specifically you guys optimize, but I more so about the mindset of Brittany specifically. Like when it comes to the big topic of optimization, do you have an approach that you lean on most, or what's your mindset when you go into optimization cycles? Is there anything unique that you think about when it comes to that? And because for all those other D2C ecom marketers or leaders listening and participating in this program, love to get your thoughts on that. The world of optimization.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a daily grind, truly. I don't have a great answer of something that I do consistently, but like I was saying earlier, I use a tool now called Triple Whale that I've found really helpful in giving me a high level understanding of what's going on within each campaign, even within each ad. I can see what ad drove what amount of revenue and what amount of profit, what the ROAS is. So I find tools like that incredibly helpful to giving me an understanding of what to turn up, turn down. Um, and then I also have just recently been working with my boss to build out a sort of bigger picture calculator of sorts that I can view, where I can view channel performance sort of all together by campaign at once. And then I'll play around with different, if I raise the budget here and then the
Yeah,
ROAS goes
scenarios.
down, what happens, to the total picture of everything. And so I've recently been working on that with my boss to have a space where I can play around with numbers and see what the impact could be and see how close we get to ultimately, once I make a decision each day or, each week with how I'm going to be allocating dollars and tweaking our campaigns. It's interesting to see how far off I was or how close I was or exceeded my expectations in certain areas. So that has been so far, it's a newer model that we've built out, but helpful to have a space like that to sort of play around with different numbers and then see how close you
That's
got
really
to
cool.
your forecasts. Yeah.
How aggressive are you as a marketing optimizer? Do you like to have certainty in the model, or do you love to take shots and see what happens? I guess it depends on
Oh,
who's on your team with you and how much leash you have, right?
yeah. Well, it's a little bit of both, right? I don't think it's ever all one or all the other. I think marketing is all about balance and balancing all types of things, the top and the bottom of the funnel. In the case of what we're talking about with optimization, it's important to, balance out how you're allocating your dollars. You're not, over investing in one area and not enough in the other. Marketing's a lot about balance. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both of those things at any given time. And again, it's like over the years of experience as a leader in marketing, just leaning on data. But when you have a gut feeling about something and you just feel really strongly, not being afraid to make that choice and a decision that maybe you don't know exactly and you can't predict exactly how it's going to net out, but you feel strongly about it, not being afraid to make that possible mistake. And the way I like to think about it, or I try to, I'm not always good at this, but I try to think of decisions in a way of I will either be right or more wise at the end of this. And it's hard to remember that in the moment, but I try really hard to think of it that way.
That's awesome. I'll either be right or more wise. Yeah, I mean that's it, right? So last question for you, and I'm wondering if you could think back to when your dad helped you, and then family got the first opportunity, and you bright-eyed, bushy-tailed walked into this thing. For folks, for young marketers who are interested in performance marketing and or on the brand side of things, but they're in a learning phase of their career. It's brand new. What's one or two things you could tell them if their goal is to grow as a lifelong marketer and stay in this field, become a marketing leader? Looking back, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would tell what would I tell, sorry, what would I tell myself or what would I tell people
Well, I guess you could take it either
starting out?
someone starting out, and I guess you could look at
Okay.
yourself, back then.
Yeah. Well, I would tell people starting out, slash, I guess myself as a younger person, make sure to network as much as possible inside of wherever you land, inside of whatever company you land at. Connection is incredibly important, both in the moment of, having mentors and people internally that you can lean on and learn from. I would especially encourage people, if you find yourself in one specific area of marketing, to network and learn about what the other sides of marketing is doing and what those people think about every day, so that you are exposed to other schools of thought and just other people's priorities. And I also think from a connection standpoint, over time, I mean, today I, lean on my network all the time to ask questions, because if you don't have others you can lean on and ask questions of marketing, and the idea of having to hit all these, intense revenue targets, right? It can be very daunting, especially if you're, feeling really isolated in that experience. So, I just the other day was feeling very frustrated with Facebook and posted on LinkedIn asking if anyone, if I asked on LinkedIn if anyone knew what the hell was going on with Facebook these days, and if anyone had time or would want to chat about their experience recently with managing ads in the channel. And I got a lot of great response and learned a lot of things in a short period of time in terms of just what people are up to and how they're managing media in that channel. And so, long-winded way of saying, your network is really important. And so as a young person, start building that out straight away. I think I was decent at doing that, but I wish that I had been a little bit more intentional with my networking when I was younger. But it's like
Wiser.
it's hard to know until you're more wise. Exactly. Follow my own advice.
I think it's a fear thing, right? It's like you don't want to show up as, you don't have the answer, you're not self-sufficient on your own. But I think
totally. Yeah.
remembering it's an element of
Yeah.
to lean into that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the other thing too is and I still struggle with this to this day, but I think not being afraid to ask for help and being overly communicative is really important, especially when you're first starting out, because I had many instances when I was younger where it was exactly that mentality of I felt like they hired me to do a job. I should have the answers and know how to do everything. And there were moments that I messed up on something that I probably could have avoided if I had just tapped someone in a little bit sooner, right? And asked for someone's help or thoughts or and I think a lot of younger people starting out think that way, right? Where you want to prove yourself and prove that you're, capable and are able to do anything and everything on your own. And I think being really communicative, asking a lot of questions and not being afraid to ask for help. Although it sounds really obvious to say, it's very true that the faster you can sort of get over the fear of that, the better. And I definitely wish that I had, you know, was able to ask for help and ask more questions sooner in my career.
Well, we can't turn back the time, but I just really appreciative of you sharing that now, because we have the opportunity to share these lessons with other people,
Yeah,
with younger people. So I appreciate your time. It was great chatting with you, and lots of success. I wish you guys lots of success going forward. I want to keep it. I'll be keeping an eye on Low and Sons. It's exciting
yeah,
scale time, and you have
yes,
precedent. You've seen this before with Birchbox, right? So you have an opportunity to kind of see this manifest, and I'm sure that you like you mentioned, you believe in the mission, where the team's going, the team itself, you believe in the leadership. And so what is your, quickly before I let you go, what is your 30-second vision of the future for this brand?
Oh my gosh, I get super passionate about wherever I have worked. And so when I talk, I say this all the time to my boss, where I would love to see Low and Sons be one of the biggest travel bag brands in the world in the most extreme sense of things. And so, I mean, I would love to just see them grow into what I know they already are, which is an incredibly innovative, thoughtful company that is a really formidable force in the travel bag space, and be recognized as such. They've done so much great work and have been really unwavering in their commitment to the product and the way that they go about designing product. And I would love to see the brand become recognized even more for that than they are today.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany. Appreciate you sharing your time and your perspective and
Yeah,
your
of course. No
experience.
problem.
Take care.
Thanks.